the biggest lie in history was told in the US Congress. At that time, pharmaceutical companies were paying so many billions in vaccine injury compensation claims that they went to the US government, Ronald Reagan, and they said, we cannot continue producing life-saving vaccines if we do not get indemnity for our product. So at that point in history, all liability was removed from the vaccine manufacturers, and any vaccine could be put on the market without safety and efficacy studies, simply on the claim that they are safe and effective, because our governments are telling us that. But guess what? The TGA, our Therapeutic Goods Administrator, and the regulators of all countries are funded by industry, 100%. They call it a cost recovery system. So the risk assessment for these products is now being done entirely by pharmaceutical companies. The public and parent voice has been removed from this policy. Now, just to give you an example of how they've been behaving for the last 30 years since that was put in place, all of you are aware that the experimental COVID vaccine has been used in the winter hemisphere for several months now. Well, in fact, only 3. And we've all heard of the thousands of deaths, the thousands of vaccine injuries that are occurring after these vaccines. And AstraZeneca vaccine, which, by the way, was not approved by the Swiss regulator of vaccines because it did not demonstrate any risk from that product. At least 23 countries around the world have now halted that program and with the AstraZeneca vaccine. Yet, the Australian Therapeutic Goods Administration, via the media, has told us that there's no proof that those deaths and illnesses have been caused by the vaccine, even though they're occurring immediately after the vaccine. And so our government says, no, Australia will be rolling out that campaign and we will take it to Darwin first because our Indigenous population in the Torres Strait Islanders need it first. Does that sound like a health policy to you? Does that sound like a government that's interested in the people's health? No! Or does that sound like a government that's promoting industry interests in government policies? Yes. This is a tragedy for human health, and it is not overstated to say it is a crime against humanity. Yes. And on Monday, this coming Monday, the Army will be involved in taking thousands of doses of vaccine up to the Aboriginal communities and Torres Strait Islanders in Darwin. While we sit here and pretend that because we're complying with the government's regulations, things are normal. This is not true. If you comply with these regulations, things will never be normal. You will be case tracing healthy people forever with QR codes. You will be taking a PCR test that does not identify an asymptomatic case of flu. It is a fraudulent test, and it is allowing the government to claim that healthy people are cases of disease. They are not, and they do not and never have in history transmitted flu to their colleagues. And this is why they have suppressed my research. My research is the history of the control of infectious diseases. And for the last 5 years since the No Jab, No Pay program has been put in place, they have prevented council venues from allowing me to speak, and other venues, they target the owners and threaten them with their reputation if my academic research is presented at those places. Censorship and indoctrination for 30 years is the reason why every health promotion action that we know has been reversed. You do not get health by locking up healthy people for 14 days without windows. You do not get health from an experimental vaccine that has never been proven safe or effective. And you certainly do not get health from a swab test that goes right up the back of your nose, close to the brain cells, and can cause infections, and things can be planted up there. That is not a health policy. And nor is the childhood vaccination policy. There is a direct dose-response correlation between the decline in children's health with a huge number of chronic illnesses and the increased use of vaccines since 1986, when the US Parliament passed that act, removing liability for any harm caused by vaccines. We are the parents. We have the right to promote health to our children at least till the age of 18. And we have the right to have a voice in our government on health policy. I want you to ask your doctor the next time you visit your doctor or your friend. Ask them, is it possible to inject an entire genetically diverse population with a drug without causing death and serious illness in the population? And look them in the eye, because they are lying if they say that is possible. The doctors are now controlled by the medical board, and they are no longer allowed to assess the medical literature for themselves and promote the public's best interest first. That is a breach of medical ethics, a breach of the Hippocratic Oath, and a breach of the fundamental ethics of medicine, that is, individual circumstances determine the type of medication that you can have. Genetics, epigenetics. So I want you to bring your friends along to the community talks that we are holding all the way up the coast. We are very fortunate. We have Vaccine Choice Australia team that is going to do talks all around Australia to educate you and empower you to speak up and defend your human rights and health before this crime against humanity goes any further. So, stay strong. And do not be frightened that there's only a few people here today. The government ensures that only a few people can come, because even government public servants lose their job now if they come to a protest against the government. And there is a lot of money being paid to keep these lies in place. But ethics and integrity will win. And if we lose truth, then we lose our freedom. So stay strong. We do not comply, and we do not comply with any one of the directives that they've brought in, because they will all ruin your health. Thank you.